Welcome. Welcome. Let me introduce you. Betsy Love is I'm saying an independent author, but I don't know that for a fact. Are you an independent author? Are you a traditional author? Or are you a hybrid author?
Well, I was a hybrid. I just got the rights back on the first two books I published, and I'm in the process of getting some more books back, and then I will be completely indie.
Okay, good. Good. So I haven't been inaccurate. That's good to hear. Okay, great. And today we're going to talk about a number of things. I was kind of, introducing those ideas itself. One of the things I'm always curious about, I think other people are, is um, inspiration. Like what or who could be either or both. What or who inspired you to start writing, particularly writing books?
Well, okay, so going back to before I could even read, before I even started kindergarten, my mother would do these little loop-de-loops on paper, and
Hmm.
I discovered that those were words, and I discovered that words have meaning and power, and I was always creating little stories all through my elementary and junior high and high school, and it wasn't until I took a creative writing class in my junior year, and she said, Betsy, she said, one day you're going to be published. And she kept encouraging me
Hmm.
to submit to literary magazines. Well, I was too chicken back then. And so it wasn't until I actually wrote my second, submitted it to several places and it got rejected. And then I wrote a third novel and they picked it up and loved it. And then they went back, this same publisher that I just got my rights back from, went back and published the first book that I had submitted to them. So I have two books with a small press, and then I have a friend who has a small publishing company, and she decided that she would publish anything I wrote because she thought I was brilliant. I don't know about that, but anyway, that's kind of how I got
That's the type of friends you
started.
want to
So
have, though.
yeah.
Good. Very good. Very good. Now, we might get a little barking. I always try to time it so that I can have my dogs introduce themselves. Sometimes somebody shows up on the front porch and they start barking. So just kind of include that if that happens itself. So, as I was telling the audience before you arrived, before I invited you to arrive, you are in the process of coming out with a new book, if I'm understanding that correctly, with a different pen name. So, first off, what's the title of the book, and just tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, the title of the book is actually book two in this series. It's called here we go, The Dragon Keeper, and the book in book two, it's called The Dragon Keeper's Destiny. We have this same character. She's changing. She's morphing into an elven creature. She's now on the other side of the portal. In book one, I do leave it on a cliffhanger, so you probably want to read book one first. But
Okay, good.
Loretta is the character, is the character's name, and she accidentally summons a mystic who gives her a dragon's egg, which she hatches, and now she has to keep this dragon completely secret. She can't tell anybody about this dragon. So that's
Gotcha.
her story, and then of course, her friends find out, and then they go through the portal where the dragons exist, and lots of
So
fun
it's
things happen there. And that's called The Dragon Keeper's Destiny. And I was supposed to have had my books on Friday. Then I was supposed to have had them on Saturday. And Amazon, they're just taking their sweet dippy time, and they're
right.
supposed to arrive tonight.
Good, good. Hope that's
So,
okay. So this must be nonfiction. Is that correct?
oh yes, it's urban young adult. It's young adult urban fantasy.
Fantasy. Okay, great.
So,
And you wrote that under a different name, a pen name.
mm-hmm,
What's the pen
mm-hmm.
name? And let's just talk a little bit about the pros and cons of writing under different pen names.
Okay. Um, I wrote under that book under the name of Lizzie Ann Love, and my real name is actually Elizabeth, and Ann is my middle name, and so I just shortened it because I wanted something that sounded young adult. Lizzie Ann just seemed to work really nicely. The reason I went with a pen name is I call myself a very eclectic reader. If you can see my bookshelf behind me, there's a smattering of all different kinds of stories that I've written. Most of them have romantic elements. And I wanted something that I could, a pen name I could write my young adult under so that it would distinguish my adult romances with my young adult, and all of my novels are clean and sweet.
Okay, good. Very good. So you used it because you wanted to distinguish between genres. So your
Mm-hmm.
romance novels, the first ones you wrote, versus from your young adult. I write under two pen names uh, for a little bit different reason because all of my writing is science fiction and fantasy, but I wanted to make a distinction between the children and young adult and the adult fiction. So it's similar, but slightly different because I got in deep trouble many years ago when my daughter, I think she was about 10 or so, I gave her a book by one of her favorite authors, and she loved it and handed it to her mom to read, and her mom was ready to kill me because I didn't know at the time that that particular author wrote a very adult fiction under the same name. And so I was in the doghouse for like 2 weeks, giving my daughter a very a book well beyond her time. Let's put it that way. So
Right.
so anyway,
Oh no.
so there are pros and there are some cons, but that's the
Right.
reason I said when
Right.
I because most of my books also are fine, anybody to read, but there are a
Mm-hmm.
few of my books that have adult themes and not something that I would necessarily want, a 10 or 12 or 13-year-old to be reading until they're
Right.
at least 18. So, um, now you've also got some special little doodads that you've got offering, I think, starting tomorrow. Why don't we talk a little bit about those?
Okay, so the second book in the it's called Mystic's Tale, and I've got a live book launch tomorrow at 7 o'clock p.m. That is Arizona time, which would be 7 o'clock Pacific time, 2 o'clock Mountain time, and just add the hours as they go. Anyway, I'm doing a live book launch. I'm going to be giving away some prizes, and I just have to show you some of the little prizes I have. This is Miri. He is the baby dragon in book one, and I crocheted him. And let's see, he was so much fun to crochet. Anyway, so I'm giving him away, and I'm going to create another one as well. So I will have two dragons to give away tomorrow. If you've read book one, you know how important Arietta's pendant is. She steals it from her mother's jewelry box, and it has magical powers. And she doesn't know that. She just thinks it's a really ugly piece of jewelry. I'm going to have some. And yeah, she learns it's got all kinds of magical powers that she has no idea. I've got some fun little dragon tattoos that I'm going to be giving away. um, I've got I am I dabble in art, not seriously, but I do dabble in art, and so I'm going to be giving this little guy away. This is Miri as a baby, and in book two he's all grown up, and here
Wow,
he is
very cool.
as the dragon. So I've got that and a few other prizes that I'm going to be giving away. So tomorrow
Great.
at 7 o'clock Pacific time.
Very good. Leah Grace is
So
sending us a bunch of hearts. So thank you for those
oh,
hearts.
thank you.
And we bookworms have joined. Thank you for joining us. We are interviewing Betsy Love, and I wanted to just clarify a couple of things here. You said you're going live tomorrow eve. It's tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock your time.
Right,
Okay,
which
and
is Arizona time.
you're in Arizona time. So you may want to
Right,
adjust depending on what your time zone is. Just go on Google and
right.
look up because Arizona is weird
And
because
see what time.
they don't change this daylight saving stuff. Maybe they're daylight saving stuff. Maybe they're not weird. Maybe they're
No,
smart.
no.
It may be the only
Well,
state
us
that's
in
smart about
Hawaii,
not
yeah.
changing. Oh, you in Hawaii?
Us in Hawaii.
Okay.
Oh, I hate it because y'all are off.
Yeah, it's staying
So,
consistent. But I want to also find out. You said you're going to be doing this live. Is that going to be how in what way will it be live? How can other people participate?
oh, okay, this is going to be on Facebook, and I have posted a link on my personal page, and I've also posted a link on my author page. So you can go to Facebook and search for Betsy Love dash author, and you can find my page. And if you want to like my page, that would be fantastic because you know we all like to be liked. And I will post a link and go live right about 7 o'clock tomorrow, Facebook Live.
Good, very good. And so all those things, including the two framed pictures, I believe, are going to be part of the giveaway. Is that
Mm-hmm.
correct? Wow, very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very cool. So if
Yep.
you want to have
And they're signed. The art is,
and it's signed, autographed by the artist, who's also
yep.
happens to be the writer itself. So that'd be very cool, cool giveaway. Very good. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I was talking to you about things that we would want to talk about, particularly for other authors or people who are thinking about becoming authors. Um, one of the things you said is, let's talk about the importance of a positive mindset. So tell me a little bit about why you think having a positive mindset is so important, particularly as an author.
right. I've been writing seriously. Well, it's taken me, a couple years to complete books and whatnots, but I had my first book published in 2011. Then I had one in 2012, and then another one in 2013. And, I just kind of dabbled in it. But at the time, I was raising little kids, and it was so hard to carve out some time that I just decided that I was going to stop poking at my business with a stick like it was some kind of a rattlesnake or something. And I was going to do this. So the first thing I did was I just decided I was going to get up every morning at 6 o'clock. I am not a morning person.
Mm.
So doing that was so hard. And let me tell you, it changed my whole day just getting up. And there's a great Clubhouse podcast every morning at 6. It's now 5 o'clock since you all are on a different time now than I am, but it's called Author Conference. And so while I get up
Mm.
and I exercise at 6, I listen to this author conference, and it really motivates me and gets my day started. The other thing I did was I set some goals for myself. I mean, every year I would make this resolution. I'm going to publish XYZ this year. I'm going to market. Well, it was so general that, it's like there was no measure. You have to, if you have a goal, it has to be measurable and achievable. And you need a timeline. And so let me see if I can grab I also watched a couple of videos on setting goals and planning and having a positive mindset. And so I had several people recommend to me a planner. Let me back up a little bit. And it's done by Author Productivity,
2022 Publishing Planner.
right? And it
I'm sorry, say
actually
that
didn't,
again.
it's the 2022 Publishing Planner by authorproductivity.com. Let me get where you can see it. And
Hmm.
it actually didn't come until the second week of January because I had ordered it between Christmas and New Year's. And in the meantime, I had watched Sarah Cannon's video on mindset and productivity. She also had one on creating a Kanban board. I'm not even going to go into the Kanban board at the moment because it's just this is not complex, but it would take a little bit to explain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing I did was I reflected back a lot on books I have read. One in particular is called The Ant and the Elephant. So if you have your ant sitting on the back of your elephant, right? Okay, here's your elephant, here's your ant. Your elephant is going this way, but you want to go this way. How long do you think it's going to take your ant to go the direction it wants to go? Like never, right?
Mm.
So your elephant is your subconscious. Your ant is your conscious. And
Mm.
your brain wants to believe every single thing you tell it. If you look in the mirror and say, "Oh man, I'm so fat." Well, guess what? Your subconscious is going to go, "Body, get to work. We're going to hang on to every fat cell we can." If you look in the mirror and go, if you look in the mirror and go, "Man, I'm so dumb," or whatever it is that you repeatedly tell yourself, your
Right.
conscious is going to say, "You're right. You are dumb. You are fat. You are this. You are that." So it starts with taking your conscious brain and saying, "I am smart. I am a six-figure author. I am." And you tell yourself this in the present tense. And it's like taking a big bucket of water, just plain old water, and you put one little drop of blue food coloring in it. It's not going to change, right? But
Not that much.
consistently, right? Consistently, if you keep adding a drop of blue water, pretty soon your bucket's going to turn blue because your subconscious is going to absorb what your conscious brain is telling it. So if you say to yourself, "Oh, I don't know where this plot is going," your brain goes, "Yeah, right, you don't. You don't, sorry, just forget it." And so I've been doing four things at night before I go to bed to program my subconscious. I tell it, I go through my goals, my wildly important goals. I am a six-figure author. And you do it in the present tense as if you've already achieved it. I am a six-figure author. I present at conferences. People seek me out. And you go through all these goals that you want to have happen. And then I do 5 gratitudes every night before I go to bed. And some of those are things that have just happened during the day. Some of them, as I'm laying down on my bed, I just go, "Oh, I'm thankful for my pillow tonight." And it can be as simple as that, It can be, but it needs to be 5 things that you already have that you're already thankful for. And when you have a mentality of abundance, well, guess what? That's
Comes to
what's
you.
going to come. It comes to you.
Yeah.
And so I have, as I've done this, I've been doing this now for 2.5 months. I started in January. And as I've been doing this, I have noticed that my book sales in the first 2 months were what they were the entire year last year. And
Very good.
so I'm watching it work in my own life.
Yeah.
So
And you said one of the things that you affirmed to yourself is that you were seeked out, for speaking engagements, and here you are speaking engagements. So it must have worked that connected you and I. So of course,
I know, and this is the third one I've done so far this year. So
very good.
this is
All
really
right.
exciting.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good.
The third thing I do before I go to bed.
One second,
Okay.
one
Oh, go
second
ahead.
before you come to number three. So if
Okay.
I want to welcome the people who have joined us and are joining us. If you have a question of Betsy, go ahead and type it in. I'll be prepared to type it in. We'll be taking questions here in just a couple of moments itself. And if you want to invite some other of your friends here on TikTok to come and join us, we will continue to do this until we still got about 12 minutes to go, so they can still make it over here if they want to. Point number three is
Okay, so the first one is your positive affirmations. Your second one is your gratitude. The third one is visualizing. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, "Okay, so my goal is to be a six-figure author. That's my wildly important goal. What does that look like?"
Mm-hmm.
I walk through in my brain, we want to put a deck out on our off the side of our house, this big beautiful deck, entertaining area. So I visualize what that looks like. I have a Pinterest board that I post beautiful decks, and in my brain I walk out on those decks, I smell the rain, I sit around the fire pit, I do those things that that a six-figure author would do. So I visualize all these different accomplishments because I'm a six-figure author. I picture myself standing on a stage at a conference. I picture my sales page going, just climbing. So the third thing you do is you visualize, and the fourth thing I
What,
do is I tell. The fourth thing I
what,
do is I tell. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to insert and move out of the way here for a second.
The fourth thing I
What,
do is I tell. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to insert and move out of the way here for a second. I have this behind me. These are all first started writing. I was still in Greensboro. I have this behind me. These are all first started writing. I was still in Greensboro, North Carolina. I created mock-up North Carolina. I created mock-up of books that I will have written, and I displayed them behind me back in the days before I had any books. So in me back in the days before I had any books. So this is the realization of that visualization. This is the realization of that visualization. So that visualization really does work. Just wanted to underline
Yeah,
what, so that visualization really does work. Just wanted to underline
yeah,
what you're
I do.
saying.
Yeah, I do that too. I have mock-up.
You're saying.
Yeah, I do that too. I have mock-ups of books that I am writing. I'm creating of books that I am writing. I'm creating some book covers as we speak, not as we speak, but just before earlier, some book covers as we speak, not as we speak, but just before earlier today, of 3 books that I'm getting ready to publish. And today of 3 books that I'm getting ready to publish. And like you, I've got, you can see, and like you, I've got, you can see.
And she'd be spending my money, and I would hurt her.
Brandy, his
My
your
wife.
wife, right? Brandy, your wife.
All my books, they're
There
lined up
you go.
behind me.
Very good.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
very good.
I do the same thing. And so yeah, visualizing is so yeah, visualizing is really important, because when you put it in your brain, your subconscious goes to work on it. Your subconscious goes to work on it.
Yep.
No,
Yep. Very good. So, yep.
no.
Yep. Very good. So point number four, and then we will got one other point I want to see. Point number four, and then we will got one other point I want to see if we can go over, which kind of have semi touched on, but we'll go into. We can go over, which kind of have semi touched on, but we'll go into a little bit more depth, and
Okay.
also to remind anybody who's a little bit more depth, and
Okay.
also to remind anybody who's with us, if you have a questions of Betsy, you can either type with us. If you have a questions of Betsy, you can either type it in, or you can ask to be connected in, or you can ask to be connected. I think to be connected by audio or video, you have to have. I think to be connected by audio or video, you have to have 1,000 followers. But you can invite that, and we can have you 1,000 followers, but you can invite that, and we can have you come join us that way too. Okay, point number four is come join us that way too. Okay, point number four is
Okay. Point number four is to tell. Okay. Point number four is to tell your subconscious to get to work on a problem. Tell your subconscious to get to work on a problem. So for instance, I'm working on this book that was supposed to so for instance, I'm working on this book that was supposed to be a sweet romance, and it suddenly turned into this mystery suspense. To be a sweet romance, and it suddenly turned into this mystery suspense. I don't want it to be mystery suspense. I want it to be suspense. I don't want it to be mystery suspense. I want it to be a sweet romance. I mean, there can be suspense be a sweet romance. I mean, there can be suspenseful elements. Wow, I can't even talk in it, but elements. Wow, I can't even talk in it, but I really want to make the main thing the main thing. I didn't want this to be an 80,000. I really want to make the main thing the main thing. I didn't want this to be an 80,000 word book. I only wanted it to be 40 to 45,000 words. 1,000-word book. I only wanted it to be 40 to 45,000 words. So I've been telling my subconscious at night, I need you to figure out. So I've been telling my subconscious at night, I need you to figure out how to cut out a lot of this and get to the actual story. So it's important to tell your subconscious actual story. So it's important to tell your subconscious to work on a problem, whether it has to do with writing or to work on a problem, whether it has to do with writing or a problem in a relationship, or a problem in a relationship, or whatever the problem is. Tell your subconscious, I need you to work. Whatever the problem is, tell your subconscious, I need you to work on this while I sleep, because your subconscious never work on this while I sleep, because your subconscious never sleeps. And then I go to bed, and as I drift off, sleeps. And then I go to bed, and as I drift off, I again go back to my vision board that I again go back to my vision board that's up here, and I just kind of walk through it. But telling your subconscious up here, and I just kind of walk through it. But telling your subconscious to work on a problem really works. I woke up this morning and I went, oh, aha, I know what to do with this story now. So.
All right, good. Yeah, see, you have a different relationship with your subconscious than I have with my muse, and I think muse and subconscious are quite related, in that if my muse tells me that the writing needs to go in that direction, I know better than to argue with it. I just, okay, all right, if, let's see how it goes, and so again, different perspectives on how to use that inner knowing that we have access to. The other thing that you had mentioned, and in the time that we have, unless we get some questions, hey Melissa, thank you for joining us, is quarterly planning. Now you've touched on that you have this beautiful looking 2022 planner. Tell me about, why do you think planning by quarters is so important to a writer's career?
Okay, again, this goes back to Sarah Cannon, and it's Sarra Cannon, Cannon. I would look her up and join her newsletter. She's amazing. But she talks about the importance of planning in quarterly sections. When I first started planning, I tried to plan out my whole year. I'm gonna produce 7 books this year, and when I watched her video, she said, break it down to just 1 quarter. Decide what's going to be the biggest thing on your plate this quarter, and then you break it down into segments. So I've got on my Kanban board, and I kind of touched on it. It's a board, and on the top, and I use Post-it notes. On the top, I put my wildly important goals. So this quarter, I'm going to write 2,000 words per day on this particular story. And then as soon as I've written 2,000 words, I take that and I move it down to this next section, which is working on it. And then the bottom section is got it done. And you can see by moving those little Post-it notes down what you're able to accomplish. If I had Post-it notes up there for the entire year, you would be so overwhelmed. And that's why it's
Exactly.
so important to only think about this quarter. And then that way you don't feel so overwhelmed with, oh, I'm going to publish 7 books. Well, if I know that this quarter I'm releasing this one, and I'm still working on this one, then I don't have to worry about it. In fact, I had one book that I said, you know what? That it was, in fact, it's book 3 of the series that I'm launching tomorrow. I said, I just can't look at this right now because it's a mess. So I'm going to go back and work on these other things. And on my Kanban board, I wrote in dry erase marker, next quarter. And I just left it there.
There you go. That takes that out of your conscious and subconscious space so you can get the other work done as well. But we're about to wind this up. I really appreciate Betsy coming on board. I do want to mention a couple of things. We'll be doing these every 2 weeks. Right now, what we have scheduled in 2 weeks from today, these are on Mondays starting at 4:30 Eastern Time. We have Sonia Lawson will be coming to speak with us and chat with us on 2 weeks from today, which would be, gosh, that'd be into April, won't it? And then 2 weeks after that, we'll have, really looking forward to interviewing Nicola, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Ormerod, who is the originator of the TBR takeover, which is an event that happens here. I'll be participating in that. So I'm really looking forward to finding out more about, how she started that and how's it going and all that as well, since I'm one of the 77 authors that would be a part of that. We've got time for one last comment, one last thing. What's the one thing, if you could share just one thing with the author world, especially if it's something to encourage aspiring authors, what's the one thing you would want to share with other authors?
Oh gosh, the one thing
The
I could
one
tell, I could probably
thing.
give you a million things,
I
but
know, that's why I
the
want the
one
one
thing
thing.
is don't quit. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your writing.
Very good. And I'm going to add something to that. Start. You can't quit unless you start. And so many, I
Right.
find so many, this why I'm I call myself a write on purpose coach. And I love working with aspiring authors to help them move from the notion of one day, someday I want to write a book, to why don't we get started today and I'll show you how to do it. So get started. So thank you, Betsy. It's been a pleasure meeting you. This will be available before the end of the week on YouTube. You can do a search for that, and I will see to it. So if you enjoyed it or you missed part of it, you want to catch all of it, it'll be on YouTube, and you can also point your friends to that as well. Thank you, everybody. See you in about 2 weeks.